if you want, you can be fully aware of how the body works. Fully aware, but very much aware of how the body works. There's so much knowledge about the mechanical movements of the bones, sinews. We can understand how the blood flows. We can understand the nervous system. There's a lot. Of course, there's a lot more that we probably don't know, but there's so much that we know. How about the soul? How much do we know about the soul? To learn about the soul, you need divine instruction. Because after all, the soul is divine. And we have a divine teacher, the Alter Rebbe, who gives us great insight to know the inner makings of who we are. Without that, we wouldn't be able to put the soul under a microscope and figure it out. We would be at a loss. So the Alter Rebbe teaches us, based, of course, on Torah teachings, or not just based on it, it is Torah teachings. And as a result, we have great insight into the makeup of our soul. Welcome to Tanya today. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad Zich and Kadesh in Montreal, Canada. It's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. A good Chodesh to everyone. L'chaim. L'chaim, l'chaim l'bracha. Should have a wonderful, good month. We're going into the month of Cheshvan. Mar Cheshvan. Mar means bitter. Bitter. On the 17th of Cheshvan, in the year 1648 of creation, we had a flood. A major flood. Not just my basement. And not just everybody's basement. But everything was flooded. Noah's flood. There are no real holidays in the month of Cheshvan. So today's the first day. Actually, 2 days of. Today is the Rosh Chodesh. Rosh Chodesh, head of the month. So blessings to everybody at the head of the month. That we should be a head and not a tail. They should recognize that God gave us a purpose, that He created us, that we need to fulfill. And therefore we learn Tanya to invigorate us with that purpose, to give us greater strength, and to keep us aligned with the divine, with God, the divine mission. And ultimately, that we be true and authentic to ourselves. L'chaim, l'chaim. So we're continuing in the 25th letter. We have spoken about in this letter about anger management and the issues surrounding anger. As our sages say, that it's like someone who's idolatrous. It's a pretty strong statement. And we're understanding the creator within creation. That's what we've understood till now. Now we're getting a little more personal and understand our soul's makeup. And of course, is animated by God. We need to understand it. After all, it's all part of creation. So understand creation as outside of this of the soul. Today we'll learn about the divine soul. And next class and classes, we'll learn about the opposite of the divine soul. And we'll see where ultimately we want to understand is how do evil people get the power of evil? But today, the soul of Adam is a compound of 10 spheres. 10 spheres means the 10 divine attributes of God. That's what it's made up of. That corresponds to the idea that God blew, right, his breath, meaning a piece of him, right, a piece of him into the soul of Adam and gave a piece of him in the innermost spirit of the creator, right? Now, sorry. So he blew a piece of him. Now, interesting, a piece of God, God is one. So you think that piece would be just a oneness of God, and that's it. But it's actually 10 faculties of the soul, which correspond to the 10 divine attributes of the divine. And then those 10 faculties that are the 10 divine attributes of God, they are broken down into 3 intellectual, Chachma Bina V'das, Chabad, wisdom, understanding, and knowledge as we translate it, right? And specifically, we have Chachma, we call it Father, in the spheres above, and Bina, we call it Mother. Hence, you have the male part of God and the female part of God. God is beyond both, of course. He's not defined by male or female, but incorporated in the divine attributes is male and female. Chachma, wisdom, that flash of intelligence, is the male father, his father. And Bina is the mother. Bina is elongating the divine wisdom. And that's what the mother does. She takes the seed of the father, and through 9 months of gestations, you know, a child is born. So here, a divine wisdom, a divine teachings is born from the divine Chachma Bina. So we have that capability in our soul that we have because God blew into us a piece of him. And das, of course, is to connect the wisdom and the understanding and to bring it down then into and funnel it into emotions, the human emotions, which the human emotions are reflective of the divine emotions. In the divine area, they're called Zoh, which is an acronym for Zeir Ampin, which is an Aramaic word meaning small faces. An emotion is a face, right? It's a face. It's your face, right? The smile, the frown. You don't really see on the face of the person emotions. I mean, intelligence. Sometimes you say on the forehead, right? Not the face. The face, you see the emotions. What are you feeling on the inside? It'll be reflected on your face. So in the divine realm, it's called faces, divine faces. And they're called small faces, though. Small in the sense that um, they have their space, they have their time, they have their place. Maybe that's a better word. They have their place. So there's time to be kind. There's a time to be just. There's a time for compassion. There's time for enduring love. There's time for acknowledgement and humility, and there's a time for connection. Those are the 6 emotions, 6 divine attributes, which then become breathed into us, blown into us, our 6 emotions. They are made up basically into 2 emotions: love and respect slash fear slash awe. Those are the 2 base. I mean, the 2 basic ideas of emotions, right? Love is the desire to connect, and fear is the desire or is the expression of disconnect, right? Meaning disconnect. When you fear something, you want to, because of the pain it's going to give you, for example, so you want to disconnect, right? Or fear disconnect from God. So then you don't do something because you don't want to have that disconnect, right? Now, and the final thing that's breathed into us as a part of the divine is the 10th level, Malchus, which is sovereign royalty of the divine, which means God's speech, supernal speech. And that is, of course, the Shekhinah, the divine presence. And hence in us, that's our speech and our presence and our reflection of the divine that's in us. And when we speak, we speak in a way that expresses something divine. Well, for example, when you say the Shema, well, as a result, so the Alter Rebbe concludes and says, as a result, when you say the Shema, or you do the grace after meals benching, you only fulfill the mitzvah when you speak it rather than feel it, maybe just read the prayer. Read the prayer and feel it deeply in your heart. It's wonderful, but you don't fulfill your obligation because the soul is made up of malchus, which is speech, analogous to divine speech. So therefore, we need to express our divine connection through speech. In other words, to have a love and awe of God, we get that. To have a divine understanding of God, or to have, an understanding of the divine, we get that. That's part of the soul's makeup. Excuse me. But here we're going a step further. And what are we saying? That in order that the divine soul that we have should have its complete and full connection to the divine, it's not enough that we understand. It's not enough that we feel. We actually have to express it with our mouths. So when it comes to Torah learning, not necessarily you have to do that. But when it comes to prayer, you have to express it, meaning verbalize it, as opposed to just understand what you're saying, feel what you're saying, but just, meditate on it and don't express it. No, when it comes to fulfill the mitzvah of saying the Shema, which we have the mitzvah once in the morning, once in the evening, when we have the grace after meals, which is saying the blessing after blessing over eating a meal that includes bread, it needs to be verbalized. So, excuse me. First of all, Chaim, I already verbalized my prayer on this, so I'm not going to do it now. But I'm going to say L'chaim. So,
what is it mentioned here in the words of Torah? The Shema, the blessing, the meals, and words of Torah. How does it put the third one there?
what's the question? Why is it third?
What you said makes sense. What I read here doesn't make sense. Because you said for the Shema, for the blessing after meal, we must verbalize, but for Torah, not necessarily. Here it's written
So,
three.
yeah. So it depends what Torah study. So Torah study, and then maybe that's why it's the third one, because at time Torah study has to be verbalized. If you're making your blessings over the Torah, you are right. Um, there is some Torah study that should be verbalized. It doesn't all have to be verbalized because the primary connection is through the understanding, right, of it. So not necessarily has to always be verbalized. And it might be better to, but it's not necessarily the only way to connect. So, so this part of our soul, the fact that it is breathed into us in order that we have a piece of God in us and that we use that piece of God in us in the 10 dimensions that we have, the 10 faculties of our soul. So the final faculty being, again, Malchus, which means the concept, the idea of speech. This is what makes us uniquely human and divine, is our communication. Animals do not communicate in a manner that we communicate. They, if there's danger, so they can communicate. If there's a need, they can communicate. They can't communicate ideas. They can't communicate the teachings of Tanya, as I'm doing right now, right? So to be divine means don't just communicate what you need, the material things that you need. That's like an animal. You're in danger, you communicate. Animals do that. To be divine means you're communicating a divine idea, a divine teachings. So share the words of Tanya. Speak it with someone. Not just, speak about how wonderful the weather is. We have wonderful weather here yet today. Almost 70 degrees. November the 1st in Montreal. And that's in Hebrew, what humanity is called is a medaber, a communicator. And this is because the part of the soul that we have, that's a part of God, means that if we're totally engaged with our faculties, we will communicate, right? We will communicate the word God. That's, to others. That's what we're doing here. Others, rather than just um, learning for ourselves, growing in our minds and in our hearts, we have to communicate it all, right? Hi. Today's teachings is in honor, in memory, most importantly, help the journey of a very special individual our dear Liba and Davida, Linda, David, and Denise Zelikson yesterday lost their father, Holocaust survivor, 94 years old. A real heartsick Yid. I don't know how to translate that. A heartfelt Jew. Oh, through and through. Really special neshama. And he passed away yesterday. And of course, it's uh, very painful for his daughters. But the pain is actually of the Jewish people. We have a way that, which right now the funeral will be on Sunday. Um, and then we'll be sitting Shiva, sitting in mourning for the 7 days. And we have a beautiful phrase in Hebrew that we say, which translated means, may the place, God, referring to the place, give you comfort amongst the mourners of Zion and Jerusalem. Meaning the loss of one Jew is the loss of Zion and Jerusalem. Meaning it's the loss of every Jew. It's just like very powerful to tie in what's going on in Israel. Every time a soldier is lost, anytime a life is lost because of the war that's going on, I read the names of those beautiful souls because it's a loss for all of the Jewish people. To tie in with what we learned today, this is what it means that God blew in a piece of him. So into every Jew, a piece of God is blown in, that's what binds us together. And that's a unique thing amongst the Jewish people. Because you don't see that amongst the other nations of the world. That kind of bond with someone you don't know, but they're your family. And for someone who's Jewish, I hope you understand. And if you don't, they'll learn more Tanya. And for someone who isn't Jewish, they might not really understand this. They might think, well, is that not all people? Well, it isn't. And the facts show that. Right. No one wants to take into how many Muslim countries are there? 37? 23? I don't remember the numbers. I want to take in another. Doesn't fit their politics, doesn't fit um, their beliefs, doesn't fit their benefit. But a Jew will always be taken in by another Jew. We've been doing that for 3,300 years, uniquely so. Yeah, there can be challenges, difficulties between Jews not getting along. So we saw before October 7th. Yeah, 57. Thank you, Michael. In any case, so may his neshama go from strength to strength. May the Zelikson family only have simchas, and may they have only wonderful, all of us together. L'chaim, l'chaim. Yeah. All right. Any questions, any comments? Thank you all for sharing.
So I checked the wife of Rabbi Meir Bar Hanes, Ruria. She's the one who chastised students for not verbalizing and studying Torah. She said it helps to
Remember. Yeah. 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 Very true, Leah. All right, folks. Rambam is coming up. And thank you all for joining. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine coming to you from Chabad Zuch in Kadesh in Montreal, Canada. It's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. Have an amazing, great day. And